You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
New partner to talk to you about. I'll make sure that I tell you about our buddies over at the College Football Playoff on TNT. It is that time of year. The College Football Playoff is back with a newly anticipated 12-team format. It's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins on December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 o'clock Houston time, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Now, I'm tearing on what I want to see happen there, but I digress. The Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown then at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Parker Ainsworth, host of Locked On Coogs, here bringing on Houston's portaling over the weekend. Big time weekend for the football program. Opened up with talking about the coaching staff changes, then talked about the linemen. And I think the linemen get a lot of love because of what people want to see the Houston Cougars grow in and get better at. But really, you had a pretty productive weekend across the board. You had another couple of offensive signees. And for what it's worth, my 2 cents are that the first wave of portal guys, whether it's receivers, linemen, or quarterback Connor Wegman, have all been very heavy on the offense because you kind of had an offensive direction. You hired Slade Nagel earlier in the week, right? So you kind of knew where things were going. Now that Houston's got a defensive coordinator, you could see things shift to where they're more 50-50 split. Have to imagine there's some defensive signings happening, commitments happening this week. As far as the offensive guys go, Harvey Broussard is a name to know, folks. Wide out, coming in at 6'3", athletic, bouncy, really good deep threat, Louisiana guy, jump ball guy as well. Great ball skills always up in the air, and really long strider, really, really athletic player. I believe at 6'3", he's going to be the tallest guy in the wide receiver room if all things stay the same. I know Manjack might have had him beat out, but now that's no more. I think that's the case. Don't quote me on that until I check it, but I think that's the case. He's got long arms, so he's going to feel like the biggest. He's got great verticals, so he's going to feel like the biggest. I mean, a big target, big catch radius for Wegman or Zion, or whoever's throwing them the ball, obviously. Other wideout that commit over the weekend was Amare Thomas. Had 2 really impressive years at UAB before coming to Houston. Good athlete, big, strong guy. Now, Amare Thomas had a lot of double teams was at UAB. He was kind of like the guy there. And so interesting to see how he fits into Houston, where I'd imagine that guy for Houston next year is Boogie Johnson. But we'll see if it's Boogie Johnson or not. But I'd imagine right now it's Boogie Johnson. For what it's worth, Amare Thomas was on the NFL Live's You Got Mossed segment because he's that kind of an athlete against Tulane. I wonder if Willie Fritz and staff saw that and were like, oh, yeah, we'll take that guy whenever he's available because Anyway, I wonder if there was some connection there. It wasn't all offense, though. Houston did bring in Will James, a really strong defensive back, young guy from University of Southern Mississippi. I think he's interesting because he's got some very intangible things you can't teach. Good hips, good fluidity, and those kinds of stuff. I also think he's in big games was really clearly hyped up. His stats indicate that that's when he comes to and really brings the tackles, really brings good, strong tackles, doesn't miss many tackles in those games. Clear growth guy. I think he's going to grow into the system and program. You can see Coach JCY, Christian Young, working with the DBs and him a lot, obviously. And I'm excited about what that looks like in a couple of years. I don't know that he's an immediate impact guy. I think he is a guy that's going to be a star of this team at some point down the line. So I'm glad that they bring him in now to kind of get acquainted with the system. Jordan Allen, though, defensive back from LSU, committed shortly after signing defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong. Jordan Allen was a DB at LSU and had mostly his safety reps while he was there. You can look at his numbers on missed tackles, tackles made, etc. Gets a lot better as a tackler as he's been there and gotten older. Played in just 4 games last year. All those recruit the boot kind of things. You see, Jordan Allen is coming home in a big kind of way for Houston, or at least it feels that way. I guess I should say. I guess he's from Lafayette, but really excited that he's coming to Houston to pair up with Austin Armstrong. You still got Halsey coming back. For what it's worth, keeping Jeremiah Wilson after he jumped in the transfer portal and is now off to just take himself out and be a Houston Cougar also feels like a portal ad, even though technically it wasn't. You got Jordan Allen, Latrell McCutcheon, AJ Halsey, Jeremiah Wilson. Like the DB room just continues to be so impressive for these Houston Cougars. And frankly, if you're going to be as aggressive as anticipate new defense coordinator Austin Armstrong and those guys being up front, it might behoove them to take care of some business behind. Now, as far as guys coming through campus, you had a bunch over the weekend that could commit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You'll also have guys visiting because based on when their final schedules were and things like that, or whatever classes they were taking, they can get off campus and still go visit. And so I imagine you see more happen in the coming days. I also imagine that by the time you listen to this, there's like 2 that have popped up that I didn't know about when I recorded this, right? Things are constantly flowing in this game, this modern college football for you. So you can find me on X at Painsworth512. I try and get something out as quickly as I see stuff. I will say also, for what it's worth, that I'd imagine having Austin Armstrong on campus once he's formally introduced, you'll pretty quickly get 2 or 3 guys that are just kind of waiting to make sure it's formalized before they commit, because they want to play for a guy that's an aggressive play calling defensive coordinator, right? So those kinds of things tend to go hand in hand. I'd imagine they will this week as well. Now, as this week goes, we've got more portal news. We're going to keep watching more Florida and Tulane film to get acquainted with our coordinators more. We got a couple of basketball games this week. We get all kinds of stuff here at Locked on Coogs. So hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know we're live. Locked on Coogs, the prime member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. Go Coogs. All of that. I also need to tell you about our buddies over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can get ready to tackle the NFL action because right now, new customers can bet $5 and win $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, you live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.